here, and I have something really exciting planned for you all today. Today, what I have planned was going through notes, so basic note editing and using the service drop-ins. And I thought, what better note to address than the BACB Supervision Experience Form? So the objectives that we have for today, so we'll locate the note and form templates. We'll talk a little bit about the permissions, creating dynamic versus static titles, talking about the left side panel. For those of you who haven't logged into our notes in a little while, we did have a brand new user interface added, which is really, really cool. Very, very intuitive. Then we'll talk about all of the automatic drop-ins. So things like client and provider, payer, all the different form fields like checkboxes and written areas. And of course, the main topic was the services drop-in. So we'll spend a lot of time because the BACB supervision form has a lot of tables. So we'll be doing more editing on these tables than we have in the previous ones. So just to give you an idea of kind of my thought process, so this is separate from my Note and Form series. So there was the Note and Form series, which discussed client forms outside of the timesheet versus in the timesheet. And this one is actually going to be a weekly webinar that I'll host on Wednesdays at noon to discuss different types of forms. So in the comments section in the questions area, if there are some forms that you'd like to see, I can definitely plan to build those out in the future. And then in a few weeks, we'll go to part 3 of my original webinar series and discuss the learn drop-ins, which I know everybody's really excited about. So my slight little jumping around, and then we'll also talk about connecting notes to the service codes. And then if you could see right down there, creating the appointment or creating a note outside of the timesheet. So exciting news. So I'm going to scroll over here and you can see the BACB Experience Supervision Form. I just want to confirm, can everybody see my screen right here? So you'll see both my organization account and the form, because I want to be able to build them out parallel. Perfect, perfect, thank you. So first things first, I want to show you guys where the note and form templates live. So 2 different ways you can get there. You can either get there from the My Profile on your dashboard, and it lives here in settings, and that's that notes and form templates. If you do not have access to this, there is a permission for it, and you can talk to your admin to access that. The second way to get here is you click on your organization name, or your name in this case, twice. It takes you to, well, it kind of took you to the same screen. So if I'm on the dashboard originally, I'll click on my name twice, takes me to that screen, settings, and notes and forms templates. So I'm going to go right into my permissions to give you an idea of where this lives. So I already have a note manager right here. So if I click on my note manager, and this is one that I've created, the permissions required to do this are right here in notes, and it's the notes templates manage. And manage gives you the ability to build all of those particular templates. So once you have that, we're completely golden. So I'm going to go and make a brand spanking new form. And then you'll have to let me know if can everybody see this if I do keep them parallel next to each other, or do you want me to just have this one as the primary screen? Because I'm open to both. If you do want to see both, I'm more than happy to keep it on there. But if anyone's having any difficulty, I can always zoom. Perfect, perfect. Thank you for that response. So I'm going to go into my settings and my notes templates. And now, all of the ones that you see here that are red that say system, these are ones that we've provided to you. So ones that you can play around with, you can copy. The moment you go into any of these and hit save, it makes one that's directly yours. Anything that's listed in gray as custom, these are ones that you've made, or ones that used to live here that you hit save. Something that we just rolled out, I think about a week ago, was right here, these really neat filters. So all will show you all of the notes templates that you have access to. System are the ones we give you, and then custom are the ones that I've made that are in mine. So some of these should look kind of familiar. My SOAP note that I did on the last one, and then I also had a session note that we built up the one previous. So we want to create a brand new one. And this one's going to be the BACB Experience Supervision Form. So I'm going to come right over to my pencil. This is the way that I could title it. So then I'm just going to type in BACB Experience Supervision form. Cool. So here in this title, this is what all of your files will be called. So if you're okay with having all of these forms being called, BACB Experience Supervision Form, that's totally fine. But if you want to do something else really neat and have this tied to whoever is the provider that's filling out this form, or even, and this is a little bit of a setup and we'll talk about it in a little bit, if you want it to say the staff's name, because if they're a practicum student and they want to get their supervision form, you can always have their name in this title here. So when I click on Create Dynamic Title, I'm going to paste the same thing that I had there because this effectively overwrites whatever is here. Create title, this is just that standard title, but anything that's dynamic, this is going to overwrite what's in here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say the BACB Experience Supervision Form, and I'm just going to put a colon, and I want to put in some information from the contacts module. So if you are connecting this particular note to an appointment directly with your staff. So if you're setting up a direct supervision appointment, so not having an actual client, but it's directly with the staff, they're technically the client. So you could put in that staff's full name and it would pull up here. So whoever the note is connected to, that's what that client full name is. In this case, I'm going to set it up with just the service date. So all this information is coming from the schedule versus coming from the contacts module related to who's filling it out versus who is this for. So if I put in a date, all the forms will be called this, and then it'll have date as well. So that's the distinction between the standard title and the dynamic title. Now, right in here, we have the opportunity to put in headers, new sections, and footers. And I have something very, very exciting coming for you all when we add other sections to this. So scrolling down a little bit, I've got a gear icon. This gear icon allows me to add templates to labels, or add labels to templates rather. So if you had a Magellan or a Blue Cross Blue Shield label on here, when you're completing forms, you can type that in and you're automatically able to find the ones with those labels. Right down here, file labels, these are just labels that you're attaching to the notes that you're completing. And something really, really cool down here, file classification. Now, if you, let's see here. So right down here, file classification, if you do purchase our Document Management Express, which is really cool, that allows you to manage your notes. And in effect, imagine you're bringing in a new client and they need to submit or you need to have an authorization for a client, you need to have their medical history or any other documents that you're having them fill out. Document Management Express allows you to track all of those. Right down here, this make template a form, we'll be playing around with this in a little while. But the main thing that this allows you to do is it locks your form that people can't delete fields, they can only write in the text areas, and they can't make changes to this template. So the next thing that we've got right here is everybody, let's see here. Sorry about that. So then we've got this little plus button, this add new section, and that's saying add a header, import from an existing note. So if you have components of notes that you want to use in this one, you can import them. You can also add new sections, and then you can create footers as well. So now we'll do a really brief introduction in this, and then we'll start building out this form. So client, provider, and payer. That information is all coming from the contacts module. So whether or not you want to know the client's first name, last name, or middle initial, dropping this in automatically, any contact information related to who they are. So who is that contact that you have listed? Perhaps this is parent, the first parent, or even the guardian, and pulling in their address. We have basics information, so whether or not it's a date of birth or an age of your client, anything in our health record. We have claims, so pulling in the diagnosis and identifiers, and then metadata, which metadata are effectively just custom versions of these. And I'll do a very, very brief introduction to the metadata, and you can play around with that a little bit further. So I'm going to open up another tab. And what's really cool, and if depending on if you have this set up in your account, the metadata live in utilities and tools. So if I come into utilities and tools, I can click on metadata settings and I can add custom buttons that I'm able to fill out. Now, if you're using custom contact forms to bring in new employees or clients, you can have them put this information in from the get-go. So whether or not it's here are my behaviors of concern, or here are some of the medical concerns I have, or even the diagnosing physician. It's very easy. All you have to do is hit the plus button, name your field, choose who that is connected to, and then if you've had a lot of experience in the system, you've probably seen this a bunch of times. You can have small text boxes, large text boxes. So this is effectively just the response modality of the person who's filling out the form, kind of what they can respond with. So that is all I've got for the client, other than if you're adding in additional contact information. So primary contact, secondary contacts. Provider works in the same exact way. This is just who's filling out the form, pulling in that information. So this is you guys. You can pull in your first name, your last name, your credentials. We have things like adding in your email automatically, your home phone, your work phone, your address. What's your occupation, or even pulling in your NPI. Now, metadata works the same way. It's just effectively custom fields for this. So if you did want to have your BACB number living here, you absolutely could. You can make a custom field for that can pull. I'm going to skip over service for a moment and go to payer, because payer also comes from the contacts module. So here in payer, everything relating to how you're getting paid. So if you want an employer or school name, Visa, Amex, MasterCard, the last 4 digits, the name on the card, company, so Blue Cross Blue Shield, maybe it's Blue Options, when their coverage starts to when it ends, if there's an insurance phone number, even the copay frequency. And then the 2 other pieces that we've got here that are used a lot is pulling in the group number and insured ID, and that lives in the patient and subscriber areas. So that is all that I've got for those fields. And now we get to have a lot of fun with the form fields, but I'm not going to go over these right now because I'm going to go over them as we build this out. Of course, the Learn one will be our next webinar that we're hosting in that other series. So we'll discuss all of these and all the cool things with there. So now let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is I need this, the BACB Experience Standards. So I'm just going to center my page and write that in. So I will do some TV magic in a little while, and I won't make you guys sit and watch me type in all these individually. So I do have them all set. I just want to make sure that we go through these in enough detail that you can kind of see the general editing. So I've created that, and now I want to do the title. So BACB Experience Supervision Form. Oops, let's see here. Then I do it again. Cool. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make this nice and big. So just like Word, I'm going to make this 18-point font. And then I also want to bold it. So now it's starting to come together a little bit. So one more space, and we want to put this in. So this piece is actually the key here. We did contact the BACB, and this form can be used for this. So this is an equivalent form. Now, one note that they did make, so for the experience verification form, this one does require a wet signature. So if this was created, it still needs to be signed. It cannot be electronic. However, this particular one can. So during each supervisory period, I'm going to unbold this, and then I'm going to make it italics and go back to my standard 12-point font. So let's see here. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that these things line up really beautifully. So I like tables a lot. So all I need is 2 cells. Notice these are still black. I don't want them black. I want them the same way the BACB has. So here in the table, I'm just going to do a little bit of formatting. So if I come into properties, and you guys will have an opportunity to see this, I'll do this several more times to address that. And then I'm just going to delete the border, turn it to 0, or just delete whatever's in there. So now I can write supervisee. And then I also want supervisor. So one little note that we've got right here is if you are completing this form that's connected directly to an appointment with your therapist, it's very easy to just say, pull in that employee's full name. However, in this case, I'm sure a lot of you will be completing this form connected to a service code or giving that option. So if you have multiple notes attached to a service code, give the option to complete this one, but they don't necessarily have to. And if that is the case, my recommendation would be to set this one up as a text box. So I feel like that's a good time to go over these. Text boxes are really small, areas are big. The main distinction between a text area and a rich text area is this one allows you to bold, underline, and italicize. So I'm just going to put in a little text box. And notice, and this is just my formatting preference, I like to have one space after the colon. Just make sure to keep everything consistent. So here in supervisor, what I want to do is I want this to automatically pull in who's the person providing the supervision. So I'm going to go in here and pull the full name of my supervisor. But what I can also do after I put in a little space is drop in their credentials automatically. So now I have the supervisee that I can manually write in and also the supervisor, which I can put right there. You can see that I just moved the tables. They are all independent now. So we did just roll that out. So the next thing I want to do is I want to put in another table, and I'm going to have it connect all of these together, but I don't want it connected to this one. So I'm just going to put a little placeholder right there for now, and then I'm going to put in 4 rows. Sorry, 4 columns, and then I actually need 2 columns there. So it's very, very easy to map it out first and then decide, okay, I want these cells to be there because you can always merge them later. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to merge this because I want to put in that supervisory meeting dates and durations. So I'm going to go table, cell, and merge these cells. Then I'm going to type in the supervisory and cool. And then in a moment, I'll paste a few of these in there because I want to definitely make sure we get through all of our material. But now we come to service. So here in service, depending on if you're using multiple codes or single codes, will determine which ones you're using. If you're only ever billing for single codes, you can pull the code description from the appointment itself, the date of the appointment itself, the start time of that appointment, the end time, the duration, the number of units for that one appointment, and the location. Now, if you're using T codes, so first 30 minutes and after 30 minutes, then my recommendation would be to use multiple services. Now, the multiple services drop-in will do the same thing as the single service. It's just that it can pull in all the codes at once. So if you're billing both of those T codes, it'll pull in all of them. It'll say, what's the start time of the first appointment versus what's the start time or the end time of that last, pulling in the total duration and calculating the total units automatically for you. So this is where there might be a little bit of variability in how you set things up. But what I'm going to do in here is I want to just say that I'm doing this appointment outside of a meeting with a client. I'm just scheduling an appointment with my supervisee. So I'm just going to say, bring in the date of that appointment. What I also want to do is bring in the start time of my supervision session. I'm going to put a little hyphen in there, and then I want to pull in the end time. Cool thing is, we can have the duration calculated too. So one more space, and then I will pull in the duration. And all of this will be completely automated for you. You don't have to do a single thing. Next piece I want to do is the supervisor meeting format. And in this case, I could do checkboxes, but I like drop downs a little bit better because I think it'll be a little bit cleaner. It's, potentially a little less work and keeps it a little more organized. So I'm going to merge these cells, and then I'm going to put in the supervisory meeting format. So then you've got two options. You can put in checkboxes or the drop downs. If you're choosing that, you can make both, but actually there are only two. So I'm going to do that a little bit differently. I'm going to write in individual, and I'm also going to write in group. It's much easier to add in the fields after you have the text. Just make sure it's organized. So I'm going to put in a checkbox, a little space, then another checkbox, and a space. And then let's just add a couple more. So that will look really, really nice. So let's see here. And then I want to merge this as well. Cool. So I'm saying this document has covering that supervisor period from, and then I want to put in date boxes. Same thing that they've got there. So all that I have to do is choose form fields from date. Now notice the distinction between this one and this one. If ever you see icons, the icons just means that gives you the ability to fill this out yourself. So I'm going to drop in the date, and I can fill that out as well. So let's see here, I'm just going to merge that again. So actually I changed things a little bit, so I didn't actually have to put in two columns. So that would just be one. So now type of experience. So this is where I'll do that drop down. So if I put in a drop down right there, I can give these three options. So let's see here. So I'm going to put practicum first because I assume that most people would have that the most often. So practicum. Let's see here. And intensive practicum. Cool. So now it gives my BCBAs the ability to just decide which one they want. So the great thing is now that section is almost done. So all I'm going to do is I want to have it the same way that they've got it. So I'm just going to take away those colors. So the same thing that we did before. So I'm going to say 0, and now that'll go away. A little space holder. And now I need to put in the experience hours accumulated. And then just time permitting, I'm going to paste a few things in here. So I just have to make my table first. So let's see. I need 5 rows and I need 2 columns. So my little bit of TV magic here. So what I need to do is I'm going to take this, paste some things in, just to make sure that we can get to all the material. And now what we need to do is we need to fill out this last column. So now we did just add this recently that you can tab to the next section. So you'll see that I'm right in there and I need a number box. So I'm just going to choose form field and number, and there it'll pull. So I'm going to drop those in. Now there's a little prompt on that one. So what I will do is I will add that in as well. So by putting in the number, anything in a form field, I can add that prompt. So this is just add lines A through C. So it just tells you how to fill that out. And then I've got one more number to drop in. So it looks like I just got to get rid of that. And I need to make this one a little bit bigger as well. Cool, that looks really nice. So next piece we got, we're going to do another little box, and we want to start filling out this one. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 7, so 7 rows. And I want to take away that as well. So table properties, get rid of the border. Make sure this is really nice. Cool, and just like Word, I wanna make this a little bit bigger, make that the 14, and let's make this bold. So cool. So now what we're able to do is I'm gonna paste in a few of these. Again, just time permitting. So then we want to add in our check boxes after this. Cool. So what I always do is if I'm doing a checkbox, I'll put it right in the front, of course, putting a space after because I just think it looks really nice. So I hope you all can see it's starting to come together, look just like theirs. And a little checkbox for readings. Cool. So now we have that section all done. And I'm sure you guys are looking at this and it's like, how is he going to pull that off? But there are actually some really, really cool things we can do to the table, and I can make this look pretty identical. So what I will do is I'm going to write in my evaluation of supervisee performance. Cool. I want to bold this, make it just a little bit bigger. Just keep everything looking really nice. And now I got to start putting in these. I'm just putting 5 spaces, and I'll play around with that a little bit in a moment. I suppose theirs wasn't capitalized. Cool. So you'll notice one thing, that I did have these bolded at first, so it continued. So all I'm going to do is remove the bold from those. I'm just going to highlight what I want it removed from and have that taken away. And I need a little bit of a space right there. This will look really nice. Cool. So what I need to do is I need to center this one. So I'm just going to highlight it and center it. And now we'll start building out this table. So what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that I've got all of the columns. So always calculate how many columns you need and how many rows you need. So in this case, I need 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to table, and I need the maximum amount of rows, and I need 5 columns. So what that's going to give you is this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to combine, well, actually I don't need to do that yet. Let's see here, I'm going to start over there. Cool. So then I'll start pasting some of these in here, and then it'll all start coming together. Once I get all these in there, we'll be able to add in all of our formatting that we need. And by the way, if anybody likes this form, please let me know, and I can hand this off to you. And then you don't have to build it. Just have it available to you right away. And then I'll go back to my email at the end, and you'll be able to email me for it if you'd like. Because I do have something else very, very exciting connected to this form, which I think you'll all be really excited about once we get to our new sections. So I'm going to add another row, a few more rows. And then I think I only need 4 more. So lots of rows in here. So let's add in 4 more. Cool, so almost there. Cool. So it looks like I've got an extra row, which is actually perfect, because then all I need to do is select it, table row, and delete row, and that'll go away. So now what we can do is I want to start adding in some checkboxes, but I don't really need all of those as checkboxes, so I'm just going to make these satisfactory as checkboxes. So I'm going to put in a checkbox, and then we'll continue formatting things a little bit. Oh, I don't actually need that one. I would need this one, though. Here. Effectively, that doesn't need one. So as you can see, the ability to put these in here is pretty fast. Cool. So what I want to do now is I want to look and make these all look the same. So clients and consumers. So that's the first place I want to go. If I put my cursor right in front of it, I can actually use the little indent button. So I'm going to increase the indent twice, and that's how you push those things over. So we've got a few more to do. So increase indent. I'm going to do it 2 times just to make theirs look the same. And then I need written and oral. Cool. The next thing I've got is some of these fields I don't actually need. So I don't actually need anything in there. So all I'm going to do is merge it. I'm going to select those cells and merge it because there's nothing really that goes there. Same thing here. But now what I want to do is I want to merge these and I want to put in a drop-in. So I'm just going to merge a few, give you an idea of what this looks like. And depending on your planning, you may end up merging things later. You may end up adding columns. I just kind of changed the way that I want to create this form because I think a drop down would be a little bit easier. So I'm just going to merge these. It'll be done very shortly. So plenty of opportunities to see these skills. So selecting and merging. Here. There we go. Almost there. Very last one. Cool. So one thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to build this drop-in right here because it'll be much easier to cut and paste it. So I'm going to make a drop-down, and I want it to say needs improvement, unsatisfactory, and not applicable. So my drop-down, I'm going to strip the formatting from it, make it a little bit smaller. There we go. Let's see here. There we go. Oops, gotta make that one bigger again. There we go. So now I can fill in the guts on this one. So I want to start off with needs improvement, unsatisfactory, and not applicable. Cool. So now that we've got that one done, I'm just going to copy it and paste it in there. So I can use my hotkeys if you're on a Mac, Command V, and you could just paste it right in there. And then we are almost done with this section. Or if you're on a PC, I believe it's Control V. So the next thing that we'll do on this one is we'll start kind of adjusting the formatting a little bit to make sure that everything is perfect. So what I want to do is I want to center these first, just to look very similar to theirs. And then I want to center these all as well. I suppose I could have just highlighted them all. So if I do that, I can say align center. This is looking pretty good, but now I want it to look just like that. So we do default our tables to 100%, but I want to shrink it a little bit. So make it as close to that as I can. But now I want to center the table. So right here, I've got the table highlighted. You can tell by these little boxes. So now that I can see these little boxes, I can actually format the table. So if I go to Table and Table Properties, right here lives alignment, and I can say put it right in the center. But now I want the color. So how do I do the color? So online, you can find a color identifying tool. So I already have it on here. So I found the exact color here. So colors have numbers, and the exact number and letters for here, I'll kind of display it next. But if I go into Table Properties and over to Advanced, that's where this background color comes in. And the actual background color the BACB used was this, that hashtag E6, E6, E6. And there we go. We have the same exact color that the BACB does. And the form, let's see, let's make that just a little bit bigger. Looks pretty close. Cool. So now we get to the completion of this form. So we want to, cool. So now I want to go outside of it and start putting in the rest. So let me grab that because I know we're running a little low on time and I want to be able to answer a lot of these questions. So let's see here. So overall evaluation, I'm going to take away the bold. Take away the bold. That doesn't need to be bold. There we go. And now I want to put in a little drop down because they say circle one, but it's much easier for me to just put in a drop in for you guys, save you a little bit of time. So what I will do is do my little drop down, and then I believe it's satisfactory, needs improvement, and unsatisfactory. Cool, so that one's all done. I think that looks a little bit bigger than it should be, so I gotta shrink that down just a tiny bit. And now we finally get into the completion of the form, so the signatures. So I'm gonna put in the supervisee. Oh, theirs isn't capitalized. Cool. So I'm going to put in a colon. And now we get to talk about the form fields. And this is one of my favorite parts. So here in signature, you could do a bunch of things. You can have, let's say it was the client. So if you are doing an appointment with that supervisee, they are in effect the client, that if you're filling this out on your tablet or computer, you can have the supervisee sign it from right there. Or if this form is related to something like an incident report for a client themselves, you can have the parents sign from the provider's account right there. But in this case, I'm thinking that this note will probably be connected to a T code that you want the option to complete it, but if you don't, it's fine. So I'm going to set this up as other, and that just means that you're assigning this note to be signed by somebody else other than the client or other than yourself. Great news is automatically drop in the timestamp, so we don't even need the date and time. That's all we need for that one. Supervisor signature is the same thing, so I'm just going to copy it. It's already set up as a timestamp because then I can just click on it and change it to provider. Same timestamp exists, and all I have to do is change this to supervisor. So now we get to write in this last final piece. So caps lock. Cool. So the first thing is we need to have that underlined. So that actually, there isn't a button for it, but if you're on a Mac, Command U, oops, where'd it go? There we go. If you're on a Mac, it's Command U. If you're in a computer, it's Control U. I want to center this whole thing. So let's grab that. Oops, looks like I highlighted a little bit too much. So let's just center that. There we go. And now we need to add in the other one. So do not submit. And now it no longer needs to be underlined. Make sure it's the same. So I'm just going to get rid of the underline. There we go. And then a little bit left to do. Cool. Then if I bold it, now what I'm going to do is hit save. And I believe the form should be completely done. So we are good to go. But now one last thing. I'm going to get rid of the table properties. Now, the moment that I think you are all going to be super, super excited about, I'm going to add in some new sections. The first thing I'm going to do is title this particular one. And I'm going to do some TV magic, and I'm going to paste in something that I'm sure you'll all want this form after. So this is actually the experience. Oops, I don't want that to be capitalized. But now, what I want to do is I want to add in a new section. So a little note. What I'm going to do is I'm going to title this Basic and Behavior Analytic Skills. Now I'm going to paste in something very cool. This form now has the task list. In one fell swoop, I've already got it all in there. Now there is one more piece to the task list, so I will add in one more section. It's the client-centered responsibilities. So now there's this other piece, so I'm just going to select all over here, copy that. And now, let's see, make sure that everything looks like I lost a checkbox. So I'm going to put that back in there. Lost a couple checkboxes, but that's fine. I do have a master version that I can give you guys that I've already created with ensuring that I've got the rest of the checkboxes in there. But we have our form completely done, and now we want to run it. We want to see how this looks. So let's see here. Excellent, excellent. So the next piece that we've got, and this is going to depend on your workflow, and I apologize that I'm going very long about this. I will give the opportunity for some questions. I just want to review two last things, and this is talking about using the experience verification form in the employee profile for that matter, and then also connecting it to a timesheet. So I have my BACB Experience Supervision Form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right to my service codes. So if you do have a supervision code, you can attach it right there. In this case, I just want to attach it to my RBT. Now, a few different things you can do. You can actually attach notes in bulk. So if you guys were to click on whatever codes you want and actions, you can choose add a note template to select it, and you can add it to all of them at once. But in this case, I'm only really providing supervision on top of this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that particular one on note templates. And now I'm just going to clear that out. And then I'm going to type in, find the BACB one. This one's my master one that I'll give all you guys. And this is the one that we built out today. So if I click on that, I'm going to keep it optional because there are times that I'm working with somebody and not, or I'm working with the client and not necessarily providing supervision. So I'm going to keep it as optional. So now when I hit save and I go and convert one of my appointments, we'll be able to look at that exact form. So let's go in here. Let's go and convert one for Sabin. And I'll make this jumbo now that you guys have looked at that for quite a while. You can see the BACB Supervision Experience Form is there. And now I've got my different fields. Oh, it put that in there twice. Curious. I got to play around with that a little bit. But now what I'm able to do is I'm able to type in the supervisee. You know, it's pulling in my name. Now I'm in the organization account, so it's pulling that in automatically. It's pulling in the time that I was there. So 7:25 was that appointment. It was 30 minutes long. Now, and this is, you know, workflow dependent. I have this one set up as pulling in the first code, which means that this is only going to pull in the first 30 minutes. But if you are providing supervision for the entire gamut, let me go back over there to show you guys that. If you are providing supervision for the entire appointment, you would use that services drop-in. Let's find this one. Let's see right here. So once this loads, let's refresh. We'll give that one a second. So this is only pulling the first code, but if you wanted it to pull in later, you can, and it'll also pull in that total duration. I'm able to say, hey, this was individual supervision. This is the period, and let's start it on Sunday. I believe that's what the BACB requests. So let's do Sunday to Saturday. We're able to choose the type of experience. So this was the practicum hours, the number of hours accumulated, time with the supervisor. We just spent 30 minutes during this week. The number of individual supervision hours, you're able to fill out all these, add in the lines, and then put in any numbers you want. So I'm just going to go pretty fast in there. You're able to say, what do we do here? We discussed clients. I did in-person supervision. We protected privacy, and we did in person. Let's just say that my favorite, all the things from Aubrey Daniels, having them read, my hero. And then what we're able to do is let's talk about their performance. Were they on time? Yeah, they were on time. Were they professional and courteous? Notice that I left those out because we were related to this. Like, yep, they were doing really great. This one time they were wearing hoop earrings and we had asked nicely. So needs a little bit of improvement, and that'll pull all very nicely. So now we can click on a few more. So what we can do here is this is where I dropped in that other signature. So choosing the contact, and I want to assign this to my supervisee. So I want to assign it to Cloud, so it's going to search for him. Let's see if it works on Era. I'll play around with that a little bit. Let's see if this one. Cool. Oh yeah, so now that this is back up, if I was to change this to services, then it would pull the entire appointment. So let's see here. So services, end time. So you'll notice the distinction: service, one service code; services, multiple ones. So let's see here. Let's try one more time. I'll come back to that. My computer might be a little bit slow. Sorry about that. But now, so we can see here, but I want to start filling in their information. So I can go right to the task list. So what do we do for measurement today? We did these. We talked a lot about data. and you're able to see all of these and fill them out independently. So this is a really good record. You'll be able to go back into files or you'll be able to go back into these files once it's completed and see, which ones did I address and when. So I was using multiple baseline designs here, or I looked at the last 5 and we never talked about, parametric designs or criterion designs. So it's really, really simple to go back and check all these. So now I'm done with all of those. I'm able to come in here and sign it. And then I can lock the form. Cool. So this is the one step to completing that in the timesheets. Now, if you're not using timesheets, and we'll have about, I think about 5 minutes for additional questions. If you're not using timesheets, there's a few other things that you'll have to do to this form. Now, mind you, we're just gonna cut out a few of those fields. So if I do import this into your account, please let me know what your preference is there, and I can always modify this for you. But in this form, if you are not connecting it to a timesheet, you cannot use any of these with service. So what this would effectively end up being is deleting that all out, saying form fields date, and then you would actually write in manually the rest of that information. So by setting it up like this, hitting save, when I go back to my list, it's going to tell me that I am not required to have this connected to a timesheet. So let's go and play around with this one. Just got to go back to the list. So here in my supervision form, it may load in a second. Let's go and convert one. So we've got, well, in this case, I suppose we're connecting it to an employee. So let me go to one of them. So my employees and coworkers. And let's attach it to cloud. Cool. So then, where are my notes? Let's bring it back. Cool. So there are my notes. Add one in here. Let me go back, make sure that I save that. Always got to make sure to save. There we go. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to copy this template. Cool. There we go. That'll work. So now if I go back to cloud, what I'm able to do, use my notes and forms. There it is, my BACB supervision form. Notice it's there because I don't actually have any of those service drop-ins. So I'm able to fill those in there, and I'm creating it directly from the client profile itself. So those were all of the things that I had to go over today. I'll put my email back up, but now I'll go through some of the questions that you guys have, and if you do have more, I can address those in the last few minutes that we've got. Cool. So does anybody have any questions? Or they have interest in one of the master versions of this form that's every single line is perfect? Thank you for the kind words. I very much appreciate that. Cool. If you can, if you're requesting the form, can you please give me your organization name, and then I'll be able to add that. Cool. Yeah, I'll hang out for the next couple minutes. So if anybody else has any other questions, please let me know. And some other exciting clinical news, we'll be rolling out ABC data collection in the very near future. And it's really, really, really cool. And then also I'll be hosting a webinar of this type weekly on Wednesdays. In addition, I'll host the Learn drop-ins in the next coming weeks. And if you guys have any ideas of other forms that you'd like to see built out, I'd be more than happy to to build them out for you if you want to come and watch me build them.